So the theme is on building from India to the world. So initially I had suggested the topic building from Hyderabad to the world, and Sridhar, you recommended we change to India to the world. So that means you're building truly national businesses from India. And honestly speaking, I came to Hyderabad a couple of weeks back. I had a meeting with Abe of Recycle. Promote took me to a couple of entrepreneurs, and went back home and I called my wife and said, if I had come to Hyderabad first and then moved to Bombay, I would have set up my office in Hyderabad. It's such a lovely city, yeah. So it's a great city, yeah. So I want to hear from you, demystify from both of your standpoint, because AI is the elephant in the room. Everyone talks about it, and we've got a good mix of entrepreneurs here for building some really great businesses, from biotech to pharma to energy transition to all great themes, right? So I want to hear from both of you on the AI stack that India is building, and what are you both doing specifically there? Maybe Sridhar, you could start, and then Raj.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for inviting me. So, India, in terms of AI, has multiple layers. The biggest layer today, around $3 billion per day investment is going on to AI. And most of the investment is going on to especially chips and the energy required to do the compute. Then the next big that's India is leading in this space. You have seen Google investing $15 billion in Andhra Pradesh, and Greenco also announced around $25 billion in UP. So because of energy availability, India is able to leapfrog in that space compared to others. Next comes to data models. Of course, India, as a frugal innovation, has done really well with Sarvam. But of course, there is a huge competition. There are top 5 players, as you rightly said, in US and in China. It's a huge fund requirement to continuously innovate to reach AGI. But the opportunity for India, which we are also working on, is working on a domain-specific LLMs. When these large language models, Anthropic, Gemini, which Google Gemini, or ChatGPT, building large language models, learning from the entire world of data, the opportunity is to pick one industry and trying to solve a problem. So when you say domain-specific LLM, let's say healthcare. You have huge amount of health data, let's say last 40 years of oncology data or heart data. If you can train those data, the ontology of healthcare or ontology of any industry, and all the old history of data, and create a knowledge graph, that could be a huge differentiation, because especially India, data loss allows us to do much more innovation, much more leveraging data compared to US and Europe. So one is creating the models. Second thing is, though this AI factories is a large investment game where 1 gigawatt requires around $20 billion of investment, there is still huge opportunity for small and medium players to play a role. Because every country, because of geopolitical situation and sovereign, people wanted to stay their data in-house. Think about it, as of today, most of this data sitting on cloud, but the intelligence going to the cloud, going to the hyperscalers, going out of the country is a challenge. So setting up data centers, setting up AI data centers within your office, within your campus, and doing this small scale, this AI factories is also a huge opportunity.
Within your own office, let's say, if I have my company, there's an opportunity to set up my own data center in my small, or it should be large, not small, I guess. So Raj, what about you?
No, so are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, one of the things which I saw when, if I first, heard about AI, few years back, the world is round is what we heard. The world has been flattened is, what we see now. The impact of AI is so tremendous, so huge, that unbelievably, the amount of disruption which it is bringing in is just unbelievable. There was a question which you asked that what are the 3 themes, and a lot of people said AI. So in my opinion, those 3 themes would be, one is going to be ocean, the second is going to be nuclear, and the third is going to be the space. Okay, that is how the world is going to change in the coming decades and maybe, coming, let's say, half a century. That is what is going to happen. The world probably will go back by, maybe 2,500 odd years, and that's how the world will move to. You have like one single man doing majority of the work, and I'll tell you my example. We are in the enterprise B2B financial suite. That is what we work on, and that's a very niche domain because nobody wants to enter that, and we are a very boring business builders. So we love that space. And what it has done is, one of the examples I'll give you, my designer, I asked him, to do a typical label work, and if he has to create, let's say about 10, 12 forms, how much time he would take. He said, sir, I'll be able to do it in 2 weeks. I gave him the work and, he came about 22 days later. And then I asked him to sit besides me. And, in 17 flat minutes, I was able to create what he created. Okay, so that's the impact which is happening. One of the things which all of you could possibly play with AI is ask what would happen to the war. Okay, what are the outcomes? What could you do differently to see that the impact of, this war is beneficial to you? So I'm looking at a lot of stuff, playing, with a lot of in and around agents, making Iran, making, Hezbollah, Lebanon, all of those, and seeing that, how do they play with each other to figure out that who is going to win the war. Israel being proxy, Trump thought that, it'll be a single day, maybe 2-day, 3-day victory. He'll pick up, instead of pajamas, probably in a full attire is how he would pick up the, the religious leader. And that hasn't happened. And it is not going to end soon. But, what will really help the war to end faster is, the impact of AI. And that is going to change the world. And I'm very, very hopeful that, as we improve, India is far behind. And my apologies to Shaji, my good friend, that, wealth is not going to remain in India, because we are always, we have been very good as slaves. We are very good as kings. But, we just didn't start living like kings. We, whatever British Empire took us and, made us the slaves, we continued servicing all these large companies in the world, happy paying dividend, but not innovating. That has been our bane of our problem. We have to innovate a lot. And I have my friend from Skyroot here, from Dhruva Space here, and when I see their companies innovating a lot, we feel very proud. And to be candid, you should open an office in Hyderabad. A lot of good stuff happening here.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm seriously considering that. So, who won the war, as per your models?
Yeah. So to be honest, if you ask me, dollar has won the war. Okay. So the de-dollarization is finished. Okay, it is back to dollar. And now, what they were doing, the earlier crude was supposed to happen in Chinese currency has now moved back to dollar.
It depends on, if you ask the same question to DeepSeek, you might get a different answer. So, okay, we have a brevity of time. Just one question. If you were starting today with 10 million US, and you make friendships with all these entrepreneurs who are in this room, so you got cash, 10 million US, you've got a network, what will you build now?
I would just give it to Shaji and ask him to invest in all of these great entrepreneurs.
Okay, that's fantastic, Shaji. How about you?
I think with advancements in AI, the next big thing is going to be robotics. So, robotics, not for India, build in India for the world is a huge opportunity ahead.
Okay. And if we were to build a tech that competes globally, right? What was the tech that you would build now with your resources, knowledge, mainly your knowledge and resources?
So, if I were to do something, I would definitely do something related to space. I think the next...
We have a space panel.
Yeah. So, sorry.
Really
am
looking forward to the panel.
I'm not hijacking. So sorry for that. But, if you really look at it, that is where the space tourism to space villas to space everything else will happen. And, I think, a lot of planets will get inhabited, by human beings.
So I mean, you can say many hot fields like, but if you look at the advantage for India, right? What is that India gives that advantage to build something for global is India stack. You know, it could be Aadhaar, it could be DigiYatra, it could be ONDC. The kind of stack what we have built is a role model for the world. And the kind of data we have access is nowhere it's possible. And any technology using AI which you can build in India at a scale, and you can take it to globe. I think if you can work on solving people problem at large using this stack and take it to the globe, I think it's a huge India advantage opportunity.
No, I agree with both of you. I think AI and space tech and energy transition, it will be used at scale in a country like India, which has got a huge demography which it can impact. Right?
Look at nano nuclear chips.
Yeah.
And that is what is going to power your AI in future.
Yep. And what is the one message that you would want to convey to the entrepreneurs in the room here? To one, let's put it in two categories. One category, they're super focused on their business. They're not aware of much of the LLMs and AI and so on. Second category was super glued in, was integrated out of the business. So what would be your message to each of them? That could be the last question.
Oh yeah, before that I'll just correct Shazi. I started when I was 16. My dad used to really give me a tight one, saying, study, you're in 10th class. And, I was out there, running business because I wanted to make money. One good thing which I would say for all of us is that, we got to focus on what we are good at. The theory of competitive advantage by Heckscher Olin is the beautiful theory right now. So you do more of what you do good.
Correct, absolutely. Well said. Sridhar.
But what I feel is every one of us should spend at least an hour or two exploring AI, not just doing ChatGPT, using ChatGPT, Anthropic.
We should ask, by show of hands, how many of you are spending at least 1 hour on AI every day? A cloud or, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Not just using it, exploring it, developing some kind of agents, automating some of the tasks. What I can say is, if not all, most of the industries are going to be disrupted, or how you are going to operate these industries will change. It's not just AI empowered, it's very important that you build AI native business in the future. That's what I believe in.
Can I have a big round of applause, gentlemen, please? Thank you.